As a painter expresses themselves on canvas, your means of expression is the charcuterie board. With that big party coming up, this board will be your defining moment in the minds and hearts of your guests. Your connection to the invitees and the entirety of your self-worth, really, depends on creating a snapshot of all you are through the weaving of a complex tapestry of meats, cheeses, nuts, fruits, and pickles. This week on the feed, we'll guide you through your desperate final attempt at connecting to another human being that, through no logical or sensible reason, you've hinged entirely on the success of this charcuterie board. Building a charcuterie board that encompasses your multitude sounds like a complicated endeavor. Because it is. That's why explaining how to make one that doesn't make you repellent in the eyes of your guests requires more than my help. So I've brought in the director of the feed's test kitchen, Allison Genobi. Welcome back, Allison.
Thanks for inviting me.
Charcuterie boards. How does a listener make one that establishes a long-desired connection with another living soul?
I think the better question is, how does the listener make one that accentuates their positives while hiding their repellent insecurities at the bottom of a bowl of pitted olives? And I do mean pitted. There's no better way to confirm everyone's suspicions about you than by offering an olive that conceals a tooth-shattering surprise.
Of course, that's why unpitted olives are the preferred party olive of the repugnant shithead.
Exactly.
Is it possible to hide all of your glaring flaws in a charcuterie board?
Everything wrong with you will always worm its way into whatever you do. All you can do is hope your insecurities pair well with a nice crisp rosé.
So how do you do that exactly? Like, what's step one?
If you don't have a $200, 25-pound, 5-foot-long bamboo cutting board to display your meats on, you should cancel the party and find a wet hole to be comfortable in for a few hours instead.
How about buying one of those pre-made cheese and cold cut platters from the grocery store?
Those can work in a pinch if your goal is to divorce yourself from normal society so you can start a new life in a cave. Perhaps with some wolves, perhaps all by yourself.
Okay, so let's say we took out a predatory loan to get a proper board so people will like us. What are we putting on it? And how do we make it pretty?
You want the board to look natural, as if you planted seeds in it and the next day a bounty of salami and cube cheddar naturally sprung from the wood grain. If your guests detect even a whiff of intention, they'll see straight through your carefully manufactured facade and know that you're a fraud who still wets the bed.
In my case, they'd be right on both counts. What kind of meats would you throw on this bitch?
You want a variety of down-to-earth meats that show off your worldliness, but without splurging on a pricey iberico ham that'll slide the scale of opinion from sophisticated to asshole.
How about fruits?
The fruit is where you'll get to show off your daring side. For instance, apple slices are an efficient way of telling guests that there's no limit to how unimaginative you can be. The fruit is where you'll get the chance to really express your creativity, but only if you've got the balls.
Don't you mean melon balls?
No, I did not, Brian.
I'm sorry, I retract the joke and apologize.
As I was saying, you need to have the balls to challenge palates. Throw on some macerated cherries, maybe some salted watermelon. Remind folks that they're in the real world now and you refuse to fuck around in it. Throw some kumquats on that bitch. It'll tell people you're unpredictable, but still know that a tropical citrus actually does go pretty well with salted meat, and therefore, you might be a cool cat who's down for a dank hang.
Other than pitted olives, what other salty, briny elements should we include to round out our desperate plea for connection in the form of finger foods?
The aforementioned pitted olives are a must. Maybe some pickled peppers, that would be nice. Oh, and cornichons are a wonderful little touch as well. Those are those sweet, briny things that look like if pickles had little dicks. Scrumptious.
Won't people assume you're a pervert if you include the tiny pickle dicks?
If they're offended by it, you don't want them in your life anyway. This board's primary purpose is to get people to like you because you're incapable of pulling it off on your own, but it's also to repel the kind of people you don't want in your life. You can take a hike if you don't like tiny pickle dicks.
Thank you for joining us today, Allison. Fabulous work yet again.
A pleasure as always, Brian.
I put Allison's instructions to the test on a charcuterie board I laid out at a recent gathering of influential New York sophisticates, including Fran Lebowitz and Mr. Met. It went over very well, and everyone I invited likes me a lot. My presence became less appealing as the board emptied, but that's why God invented the fancy meat and cheese department at Whole Foods, to make me look very good. If you like this show and any of the others on the Inaudible Podcast Network, consider contributing to our Patreon at patreon.com/inaudiblepod. Then follow us on Twitter at inaudiblecast. Links are in the show notes. Next week on the feed, food can make us smile, but can it make us cry? I'll be talking to a chef in Barcelona who says he's created a gazpacho that brings all of your repressed traumas bubbling to the surface. I hope this gazpacho's got a shovel because it's gonna have to dig pretty deep to find mine. Oh God, it comes now. See you next week.